Do I have to do that again? Welcome to the next episode of Field Service in Focus. And today we're going to look in more detail at the topic of sustainability. So my guest today is Jan van Veen from moreMomentum, an organisation that run a service community really focused on manufacturers. And today I really want to get under the topic of what sustainability means to manufacturers. What challenges they're having around the circular economy, what that really throws up in terms of issues, and really understanding what that means for the service organisation within a manufacturer. So, Jan, welcome to the episode today. Can you give us a bit of an overview of yourself, your background, and also your work in moreMomentum?
Yeah, thank you, Susanna. So indeed, Jan van Veen, founder, managing director of moreMomentum. So we focus on the B2B manufacturing sector. So all kinds of manufacture equipment, machinery, complete production lines or instruments in all different industries. And what we do is we inspire and facilitate service leadership teams and innovation teams to drive the pace of their service transformation. And for that, we do organize community meetings. We run the service transformation monitor and a service academy for all kinds of workshops. So that's, in a nutshell, moreMomentum.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I guess really relevant today because you're hearing day in, day out, the different issues that manufacturers are having as they move on this journey. So really, we've mentioned the circular economy. Can you sum up kind of what the circular economy is, what it means to manufacturers, and what we're talking about when we talk about the term circular economy?
Yeah, so circular economy, just in general, is getting the most of materials we attract from, well, let's say the earth, and then use longer, better, and reuse the materials. And that way use less resources from the earth. That's in essence what circular is. So let's elaborate a bit on it. Opposite of circular is linear. So we extract materials, we manufacture a product or equipment or a machine, we assemble components, and then we sell it. Then the customer uses it, and at some point it's over its lifetime, economic or technical, and then they dispose of it, throw it away, and then we have to extract new materials, etc., to replace that piece of equipment. So that means every time we dispose of things and we have to extract more materials and do the whole thing again, and by the way also use all energy to manufacture it. And then circular is, instead of disposing it, try first of all to use longer, increase utilization rate, reuse instead of disposing it, so resell it to others, so second life market. We can also refurbish components, we can even remanufacture the whole product, and ultimately we recycle the materials. And part of the game, the challenge is to avoid going too low into recycling. It's more efficient to reuse or remanufacture as long as possible. So that's the essence of
so that's
circular models.
Economy. But I guess it throws up lots of challenges about how do we get those products or components within a product back into the manufacturing cycle.
Yeah, exactly. So the challenges for manufacturing is, first of all, how do we manufacture our own products or equipment for longer lifetime, for more efficient use, for better serviceability, what have you. And then looking at the service operations, also there we can see how can we be more efficient in terms of energy or spare parts, wear parts, how can we reuse spare parts, wear parts better. How can we help our customers to modernize and upgrade instead of disposing? But that is still kind of pretty close to the normal business model, that in essence we provide equipment and we ensure it's available in good condition. And then the next level of opportunity is also how can manufacturers help their customers become more circular and sustainable. And then we really start redefining the overall value proposition, what in essence is the value you provide to your customers.
Absolutely. If we look at more specifically at service, so whether that's the service organization within a manufacturer or a separate service organization, how is the circular economy changing the way that they operate, but also the type of services that they offer?
Yeah, so kind of elaborating what we discussed just now, basically say there are two things, the internal changes, how you operate, and maybe adding a few features in your existing services. And secondly, really changing the kind of value you create for your customers and your value proposition. So let's dive into the first one. Internally, how you operate, adding maybe a few features to your current service offerings. Maybe not exactly sustainable, but on the about circular is energy. We can reduce energy consumption of the field service. So how can we avoid travel or travel less? Maybe we can be more efficient in how the logistics of spare parts. But maybe you don't define that exactly as circular. Then the other thing is, of course, spare parts and wear parts. Instead of just disposing of it or replacing, how about swapping and bring it back to the workshop, refurbishing it, making it available for the next repair or maintenance job? That is what we don't do often. In some industries, it's a bit more common.
And it's something we're starting to see a lot more with our customers asking about is there's a capability to do that, but how do you track that through the system? Because every component needs to be tracked. And again, that adds a layer of complexity to it. But
and so it's not a radical change in your offering, but on the other hand, to be successful in it, it does have some requirements in your processes and operations to have the whole reverse logistics and the inventory management, etc. It will have some additional challenges, but they're not that huge compared to changing your business model and your value creation. And by the way, we do see already that governments are jumping on this bandwagon and actually saying that it should be a right of customers to expect a refurbished or repair instead of replacement of components. Now, if that regulation starts to become live, that means that there's no choice anymore and that we have to have these capabilities in place. But similarly, we can also see how we can do a better job in upgrading and modernizing assets of our customers. In some industries, this is already happening quite good, but in others, not so much. So that could be something. But then if we start talking about value creation and changing your value proposition, your customers have to become sustainable and circular as well. So if they manufacture tires, they need to have recycled rubber to manufacture new tires. That's easier said than done. That also has all kind of challenges, how to maintain good quality, how to do that efficient, what have you. So customers of manufacturing companies, they will have new challenges, new problems, new jobs to do to become circular. Now, who's going to help them with that? Is that you as a manufacturing company or service company, or is that another kind of company or service provider going to do that? And so first of all, we can look at reducing energy consumption, CO2 footprints, but also how to have those recycle operations and processes in place, how to reuse or adjust the machinery to do a good job in recycling materials. And maybe the big disruptive thing could be in industries where utilization rate is low, how can you increase dramatically utilization rate of a customer, or maybe it's you having several customers sharing the same assets to increase the utilization.
Like the
so here there are the more
model.
big so here are the big changes probably, because if customers have a problem here, they need help to solve that, then that also means they will have money for it. How are you going to prepare for that?
But I guess, so I was talking to a couple of our ESG experts internally who help customers with this, and they were talking a lot about those regulations that manufacturers, or in your scenario, the customers have on their suppliers. So first, they need to know that they're using recycled goods because it affects their targets. And it's having that documentation around that can be a real differentiator for suppliers themselves. Absolutely. According to a recent survey, 31% of respondents said their sustainability objectives are actually being shelved because of economic concerns. We talked a lot about the benefits, but can circular economy really bring profitability? And can you give us some examples of where you've seen that happen?
So yes, absolutely. And by the way, we have to find solutions that circular or sustainable solutions come along with profitability, because otherwise it will never be viable. So somehow that has to happen. But I think also that what you get from the survey, that's all in current context of today, with current price levels of alternatives, with current regulations, with current expectations of consumers, customers, investors, and what have you. And all of these things are changing. So, for example, if energy prices go up very high or goods prices increase more, that will drive changing economic dynamics as well. So I think that's first of all to be aware of. And this is what we see in big innovations always, is the timing is not always as easy. And in early stage, it is difficult. We don't see it feasible, viable. But in time, that is changing. So some examples, by the way, is in tires, industrial tires. It's already common that instead of replacing the tire, they kind of cut off the running phase and put a new layer over it and bring it back to the customer. So that is a form of refurbishment. And
the material cost is lower, so profitability is
so exactly. So that means also that offering is a cost reduction and drives circular models. We see a whole recycling industry emerging, coming up with separation solutions, waste handling solutions. That's being paid by somebody. So that means that already becomes a kind of economic viable model. So I think that's already an indication in itself. We see in different industries that if you want to replace a product, you get a kind of discount if you send in your old one.
I've seen that with my printer replacement cartridges.
Exactly. I'm not sure if it's already in the B2B industrial equipment really in that way, but I think it's a sign. We have plastic being moved out of the value chain in the retail in quite a few countries now, but still a lot to do there. And so that's also a viable, recycled or circular model. We see also more in the kind of industrial place that in production plants, services are helping to improve the yield of raw material by being more accurate in your recipe and your process management, so that you can have less waste in raw materials, that you have less failed products that kind of lead to waste. That's a cost saving. So there we see that there is room for this. And the same with fleet management. If we look about utilization rates, Hilti, I think, is a good example. So they provide hand tools for the professional market, so construction plants, for example. And one of their offerings is doing kind of fleet management, providing the right tools, right numbers, right location, depending on the different phases of your construction project. But that also means that hand tools will always be kind of in control where it is. It's not lost. We know the condition. We can refurbish it, etc. Instead of at some point that drill's just gone. We don't know where it is, and well, let's buy a new one and have a whole shed full of hand tools sitting there being unused. So also there we see there's a revenue model. There's a cost save for customers. So, I think there are plenty of examples.
So despite the availability of advanced technology, when we look at some of the stats around this, utilization rates of assets and products is still really low. I think, some of the research I looked at recently, it was still only at 18%. So what are barriers that are preventing companies from increasing that utilization rate and really driving towards the circular economy?
So that really depends on the industry. There are indeed industries, so sectors where the utilization rate is somewhere between 10 or 20%. There are also industries where it's between 80 and 99%. So there it's more kind of sweating the assets, optimizing the processes, maybe also the downtime, etc., to kind of incrementally improve the utilization rate. The biggest impact will be indeed in those sectors where the utilization rate is below the, let's say, the 50-60%. Automotive, construction materials, those are typical examples where the utilization rate is pretty low. Now, I don't think it's necessarily a advanced technology required to have a more develop a utilization rate, because in essence, this requires a kind of sharing assets model.
Yeah.
Now, we already are for decades used to rental of alternatives in various industries. That, for example, hoisting equipment, you don't buy it, but you rent it whenever you need it. So that way, the utilization rate of those assets are pretty high because they're rented for all different kind of companies, etc., customers. But there's still some industries where this can be improved, probably by these kind of sharing models, so rent or pay per use kind of models, where the example that I mentioned with Hilti with fleet management. So they provide you the tools whenever you need it. They look at your project plan, so they know and can anticipate how much, where, what, etc. But they have a large number of customers using the same kind of offering, so they can drive utilization of the hand tools up significantly. But this is disruptive, because then all of a sudden, so for example, cars, I think that's
this is what 18%. I'm thinking in the back of my head all the time. My car probably gets about 1% utilization, and it's sat on my drive.
So problem one is car manufacturers will hesitate to offer really sharing models, because that means that we only need a fourth of the cars than we have now. So how are they? So they have to reduce the total production capacity and volume with 75%. How is their business going to look like revenue-wise? So then they can say, okay, we'll have a sharing model, but are they going to recoup that kind of revenue impact? Maybe not. So that is a kind of cannibalizing obstacle for them, but also you and me. We still buy a car instead of use Uber all the time for every kind of trip we want to do. Why? Convenience, maybe cost, maybe it's still kind of lifestyle thing. So also the market has to change habits.
Mindset. In the market.
Mindsets and habits. And I think those are the kind of obstacles which will change in time, and service companies can play a role in that for sure.
So what challenges and financial constraints may companies face when they're pursuing this strategy towards a circular economy?
So in essence, it's higher costs, lower revenue, and risks. Those are, let's say, the sets in financial terms. But I think we have to unpeel the onion a bit on what are then the root causes of those kind of challenges in financial terms. So first of all, if you come up with a new solution that has another cost structure and higher cost structure, we have to find a way to monetize it. So that is two things. We have to monetize, but also have the right timing with the market. Don't offer something that customers do not need yet. Don't provide a solution to a problem your customers do not want to solve yet. If you do that, then you're pushing a lot of energy into solutions, do a lot of marketing, what have you, and nobody is buying it. And then we find ourselves, we have to convince our customers to about the value, but they don't see the problem, they don't want to solve the problem, so you're stuck. So I think that's one, timing with market needs and monetize. We have to really look at the revenue models of some advanced business models. So at some point, instead of selling something, we'll have a more kind of recurring revenue of small portions. So what does that do with your cash flow, and how are you going to solve that? Do you so that's either having a lot of money, or having an investor or financing company as a partner. But then still it has an additional cost. I think there's another thing that's related to this. There's a kind of risk transfer to manufacturing companies or service companies, whether it's about pay per use or pay as you go kind of subscription models. If customers cancel the subscription, who's going to pay for the assets? So that's a risk. We also start getting more kind of outcome-based services, but if you don't achieve the outcome, you don't get the revenue. So those kind of risks We have to find
so
ways
that's
that
a big
we can
risk
manage
to
those
the
risks.
yeah, absolutely.
Which
And they've got to
basically
have
means
an
we need,
operation that they're confident can sustain that outcome for their customers, or else they
yeah.
are going to get a lot of penalties. So yeah, we've touched on recycling, on waste management, but do you have any recommendations for manufacturers as part of their service operations, what type of activities they should consider?
So this is all about a strategic endeavor. So developing the service business model, or actually the business model of the company as a whole. Because the all real sustainable solutions will not come just from service, it's your company as a whole. So we have to treat it accordingly. So also from service, we have to develop our strategy management capabilities, having an ongoing strategic dialogue, developing new strategic insights with external players, with different stakeholders in your company, because that is priming everybody for the next level strategy. We have to develop and constantly update our transformative vision and strategy. And we have to involve our customers and suppliers and partners in it, because it's a long-term development with a lot of uncertainties. We don't know the real answers yet of what's going to be the dominant solution in the market. So this is one thing, this kind of strategic endeavor, appreciate it as such, and develop the capabilities to manage that strategic endeavor. Another one is look for customers that want to solve the kind of problems now, come up with the right solutions for now. What are the jobs to do they want to perform right now, but also have a view of how that will evolve in the midterm, long term, and start preparing for solutions, but sell and promote really what you customers are looking for right now. Find early business cases and way to monetize it. Because if you have no return money in, how are you going to fund the cost and the investments? That's a tough call. And maybe lastly, it's nice to have a strategy, but that's just a piece of paper if we don't allocate the resources for the strategy execution and developing the new service offerings, and maybe also adjusting the way we produce or manufacture or design our products and the assets. And so the resource allocation is an important one. And that's not something you can fix on your own as a service leader. That's together with the CEO, CFO, commercial products and what have you.
So do you see companies bringing new people in to do this type of project? Are they looking for people who've done this project elsewhere in other organizations, or are they developing homegrown talent to do this?
Well, it's a combination, but you often see that for service and also for manufacturing, this is a complete new mindset, new way of thinking about the industry, about the markets, about your core value. And then often that is well served if you catalyze that also with external resources. So what we see, for example, is manufacturing recruiting people from the software industry, because the business model has evolved a lot, and that can bring a lot of new value into your company. And diversity always helps a lot in accelerating these developments. So diversity in terms of background in the industries, education, different countries across the world, because their needs and understanding are different. So if you have these kind of diverse teams, we'll always have better questions and also better
because
answers.
They come in with a blank sheet of paper, can ask the right questions, question why we're doing it that way, and bring new ideas in.
And challenge the status quo.
Absolutely. Fantastic. It's been so interesting talking to you, Jan, today. So many great ideas. Thank you so much for your time. Fantastic. Thanks.